Greetings guys and welcome back to my workbench. It's Dan here as always, and in this video we're going to be updating you on all of the projects I've gotten done at the end of the month here. Time's just flying by again. I've had another very successful month of completing some projects, starting some new projects, acquiring base models to start new projects, for example, and also selling off some more stuff. And this month in particular, I was able to actually go to a train show in Maryland. I made a little road trip and spent the weekend out there. So I got some great deals, some stuff like that. The train show is in Maryland, like I said. It's called Timonium. It's a pretty well-known show. It's the first time I've ever went to a show this big. It was basically 3 large rec centers worth of trains, and I definitely was not prepared for the sheer amount of things I was about to find. And towards the end of this video, you'll actually get to see a lot of the stuff I picked up. And I'm actually in the process of working on some of the cars that I picked up from the show too. So definitely a very exciting train show. It was a great opportunity. It's been a while since I've been able to get out of Ohio, at least since my road trip back in the summer. But other than that, an actual weekend road trip was exactly what I was looking for. I wasn't able to go to any hobby shops just because where I was in particular staying in Pennsylvania, there really wasn't any local hobby shops, but I was trying to scout some places out. But any of you guys that know some really good hobby shops in Pennsylvania, if you want to leave some comments below, I do plan on going to Pennsylvania again here in the coming future because I would like to do some hobby shop scouting and of course do some rail fitting because there's just a lot to see in Pennsylvania. And unfortunately the trip I took where I was, it just was a little bit more voided of any kind of actual real action. I did see a lot of tracks, I did see a lot of trains, but I wasn't able to do any kind of real fitting. But of course all that can get saved for another video. So on to the actual trains now. What I've been working on is again some covered hoppers. I updated some other rolling stock that I've had, and I've also been wrapping up some projects to sell, or at least I had the intention of selling and then decided to keep. The one car I will show to go ahead and knock out real fast is this Ferromex Autorack. Now this is a car I've had, so this isn't a new model. I have 3 of these, and I was actually getting ready to sell this one, or at least that's what I thought. So this came back from the train show that I went to. I brought this with me because I brought a number of my cars, most of my Autorack train, to actually run on a club layout that I visited called the Short Line Model Railroad Club. And this one got damaged. One of the doors got busted off the ends here. I apologize, it's not fully in shot here. I think it was on this end, so I had to repair that, and then one of the ladders got busted off. So that was the reason why this Autorack got brought to my attention. It was on my workbench, I was looking at it, and I was like, I just didn't like the graffiti. I was a little disappointed with it. It definitely wasn't my best effort, so I was thinking of selling this car off. And then I found a prototype photo online of a Ferromex Autorack with some graffiti like this. And I was like, okay, let's give this a try. So I ended up doing a little bit of hand painting graffiti this week, trying to piece together these different graffiti pieces. So I started with this one and then worked my way down towards the opposite end to my right here. And you can see I really try to go in detail, making some really authentic looking graffiti. This is all hand painted, like I said, with acrylic paints, very carefully, very time consuming, but that's what it takes. So as you can see, the big thing with doing these Intermountain Autoracks is that you have to go back in and poke all of these little perforated holes back out, because when you paint these with acrylic paint or any other kind of paint, it clogs those little perforations, so you have to go back and poke them all out, which is very tedious. I'm not quite done with that. As you can see, all these other pieces are finished except this last one. This is the last one I painted, so I got to go back and unplug a lot of these holes, but all the graffiti turned out really good. I did a little bit more tag work, updated the patching. You can see this one got repatched with the number, as you can see, and I did touch up some of the weathering. I still got to glue the door on this end here too. You can see these doors on these Intermountain cars are really annoying because they have a very bad tendency of sliding around, and being that this was my first real op session with these Autoracks, I was definitely discovering which ones worked the best and which ones needed some maintenance, and this was the first one I did. I got a few more that I'll probably go through and either sell or update like this one. Hopefully update is just because these Autoracks are a little expensive, and if I don't have to replace the cars, I don't want to. That being said, I usually can sell them for a little bit of money, which is nice. It helps out, but with how tedious Autoracks are to do, if I can try to just refurbish them, fix them up, and then just update them with new graffiti, new patching, or new things to make them more interesting, then I'd prefer that over the alternative. So This one ended up coming out pretty good, and I'm very happy with it. So that'll be going back into my box collection and be put away. I'm starting to work on some covered hoppers right now. I have a little collection of Atlas cars that I got, and I have a Scale Trains hopper. I'm going to show you this Atlas hopper first. This is one that you'll see later in this video. I bought it new from the Timonium Train Show. It's in the process of being weathered right now with a nice chalky weathering wash. As you can see, I did a little bit of texture to the roof using some baking soda and baking powder to look like the non-skid coating on the top, which is pretty cool. It's all done with oil so far. It's a relatively clean car. Still in the process of getting finished up here. There's still some little details I got to do to it. Finishing up the trucks, cleaning the wheels, for example. But this one's coming along. The next hopper I did was a Scale Trains rivet counter. This is a rare car, KCS 28744. There's the number. 287442. Partially covered by the graffiti there. Sorry about that. So this one I actually got in a bargain deal. I was in the process of buying some tangent hoppers, and the gentleman offered me this one. And being that it's a pretty rare car, I was like, heck yeah, I'll take it. So he sent me this one, and I got this and a couple other hoppers for $100, which is a pretty good deal. And I got this one again with the intention of customizing it and selling it, but it ended up coming out so good that I decided to keep it. Whenever I make really, really good cars, I definitely want to hold on to them because these are very painstaking, time-consuming, tedious to do, and if I can crank some of these out and they come out good enough, then I would definitely like to keep them because it makes my job easier down the road. I don't have to go back and try to recreate these cars because you just make them sometimes and they turn out so good that you're just like, I can't possibly redo this one. You can, but I don't want to go back and try to re-replicate models. I absolutely hate doing that. That's why I rarely try not to redo any kind of locomotives and cars if I can, unless there's room for improvement in some cases. But in this case, I decided to keep this one, so I hand-painted all the graffiti on this one again based off photos, did a lot of the fine tagging. This one has a nice oil wash down the sides, a little bit of powder work at the top, a lot of side scraping, as you can see, because these cars always get scraped up down the sides. You can see how it's kind of cut through all that paint, down to the paint a little bit. The base paint, I should say. The bays have a nice little bit of pitting to them from the hammer marks. I believe this is a soybean car, so a lot of times with grain they hammer on the bays at the sides of the car even though they're not technically supposed to. The trucks have the nice weathering, all the underbody grime and kickups done to the bays. You can see some of that overspray is painted on the bays as well. Lots of fine washes, of course. Those trucks look really, really nice, especially with the spinning bearings. The top of the car here has a lot of that really nice chalky, dusty looking rust, typical of a grain car. And I'll have another example of this to show you just in a second, but you can see it's a lot of that really dusty looking grime. So a lot of this is just done with the oil washes first, and then I go back in with powders and brush on the powders to make this nice dusty looking effect. On the opposite side, nice and clean. I just focused on the weathering on this side here and a little bit of tagging. You can see there's a little bit of scribble, all kinds of little effects like that. Lots of side scraping again all the way down the side of the car. Darkened up the weld seams, of course. Lots of darkening up on the top, again from all of that spillage, a lot of that dusty grain spillage. All the nice work on the underbays. And then if I can very carefully bring this into the shot here, you guys can see that kick up. All the nice splatter on the ends. On the opposite side here, it's a little bit more visible because you don't have all that brake rigging. You can see all that's just built up with the airbrush, powders, a little bit of acrylic splatter, oil splatter, to create that really nice effect. So that's the KCS hopper I got done. That's another one that's going to be going into my collection, used as a grain car. That one's really, really nice. And then this one is still in the process of being finished up here, but this is a rarer Atlas. What is this, a 5700? I forget what the capacity is on these. It says on the car, I think it's a 5000. Oh no, 5800. 5800. So this is an ADM grain car. I believe this is a soybean hopper. I'm making a small soybean cut of these cars, and this one I found on eBay super cheap. I think it was like 15 bucks. No damage. I just got it pretty much in good shape. Sorry about that, guys. Get a better view here. So what I did to this one, I just pretty much weathered it up, did oil washes down the sides just like the KCS car, and then I did all of the little bits of pitting on the sides from the hammer impacts, the vibrator impacts, same on the bays. So you can see all that's done. This end does have a dent, and that's actually my fault. That was me doing that, so that was a complete accident. I got to straighten that back out. But the trucks are all weathered up so far. The underbays, the safety striping is done. I did fade down the ADM logo just a little bit. The key feature on this car, along with the pitting, is the heavy amount of dusty streaking down the side of the car. It's very fine, and this was done with acrylics, not oils. Just so I wanted to keep these very fine, I did a very heavy white wash of acrylic down the sides, and then I spent the next couple of minutes just diluting the paint and then very carefully working it down the sides, getting these very, very fine individual streaks. Especially at the top there, very important, and then at the area around the hatch, it's nicely dusted up, as you can see. It's just all worked in around those hatches very carefully, and I think it turned out really good. On the opposite side, you pretty much had the same thing. I did intend to paint some graffiti on this car, but it turned out so nice that I decided I just wanted to keep this pretty clean. And a lot of the cars I did see with these repainted schemes, a lot of them don't have too much graffiti, so I really thought I could just get away with it on this one, to be honest. Save some time and really just focus on another car that has the cool weathering effects, because I like cars like these. It does have a little bit of scribble tag work, again, here and there. But other than that, relatively clean. You know, these weren't repainted too long ago, so they're still in pretty good shape. So like I said, I just faded the logos down, did the streaking, all the nice underbody weathering work. This one is still waiting on probably a little bit of grain spillage, maybe a little corn or something like that. Possibly a soybean load, something like that. Maybe some grain sprouts, you never know. But this one turned out really good. It's just about done. The only other thing I think I might do is add some side streaks, a little scrapes and things like that, because these grain cars do get those quite often. But other than that, it's just about done, and it's looking really good. Switching gears to some gondolas now. This next car here is a modified scrap gondola. This is a companion car to the first one I made. This is RGLX 2476, and this is a 51-foot gondola that received a high side extension for scrap service. This car is completely detailed. Scratch built the top cord. I added new grab irons, side panels to model all of the bulged, warped, sagging panels. Did the brake rigging underneath. Not 100% prototypical, but it's designed to look good from a distance, where if you see the car traveling down the track, you can kind of see it. That was the intention here, and it looks good enough. So I did pretty much all that, and then I did the air hoses, new couplers, a couple of lift bars. I had to modify all of the ladders and extend those out based on the prototype. Same with the sides. Same on this end here. Added a photo etch walkway, a new brake wheel, all kinds of really nice details to this car. And then in terms of painting, I just hand painted everything in terms of rust, weathering, everything like that. So I painted the car first, did all of the oil effects and everything with fine tip brushes, and then blended everything out, and then did all the decal work, safety striping, and there's not really any patching. There's really no graffiti on these either. These cars operate somewhere around Chicago, all the way up to Neenah, Wisconsin. That's as far as I've seen them go out west. They could go further though, I'm not sure. But I saw these out in Pine Junction, and I really wanted to make a set of these, so that's what I was really setting out to accomplish. And it took me a few months to actually get these done, but I'm super happy to have a pair of them now. This last one had to wait for decals, that's why it took so long. But other than that, it turned out really good. I really like all the side pitting. You can see it's looking really good. And then the scrap load is real scrap steel. It's just been rusted and then ground up. I glued it to a foam base on the inside, and it's secured in place. This car has a nice bit of weight to it too, so it should track really well. The top cord looks really nice with all of the chipping. That was actually done with a coarse cosmetic sponge. That was a tip I learned from Panzermeister. He did a similar technique on one of his gondolas, so I want to thank him for the inspiration on the technique there. It looks really good. So that's the RGLX scrap gondola. This one came out really good. Hopefully I can get some pictures up of these before it gets too cold to take photos outside. But both those cars are done. They're ready to go into service. This next car here is a railgun, and this is one I just finished the other day. This is CSXT 708-218, and this is a car I've actually seen in real life, and I found pretty much the photos online, and decided to try to model this. So this is an Athearn RTR gondola. A lot of people see these cars, or at least the railguns I have done, and everyone thinks I'm using the Arrowhead cars. I don't use the Arrowhead cars. For one thing, you can't sag them in the center. They're hard to work the panels out, and I don't know. They're a nice car, but I don't like the inability to really fully customize them and get them up to modern standards, so to speak. The Athearn cars are easier to modify, and there's a lot lower risk if I screw something up, especially when it comes to like actually sagging the car body, doing the side panels or things like that. If I screw something up, it's only like a $25 car compared to a $45 car, which is also hard to find. So I prefer to use the Athearn guns. Anyways, aside from that, this is again like an Athearn gondola, and I actually filmed this whole process, so you guys will be able to see how I actually warped and bended the car body to model that realistic sagging. I did the side panel trick on this one, and then completely repainted the car. I got all the custom decals on there, all the prototypical patching. Underbody detailing is all completed again. This is designed to look similar to the prototype, but it's not going to win any contests or anything like that. It's just designed to look appropriate, like what's supposed to be there is there. I kept the stock trucks, like I said. I didn't really feel like modifying those, changing those. I could switch these to Genesis at some point. But on the sides here you can see the extensive amount of work I did. The first thing I did was I added the new styrene sides, I painted them, then I went in and did all of the oil rust washes, then I did all of the gouging, streaking, and everything like that using a coarser brush, darkened up the yellow, streaked all that down, added a lot of the rust pitting on the ends there. Especially over the yellow, a lot of that rots away. You get this really cool rust effect. And then once I did all that, added the decals in progressive layers, new safety striping, mud splatter, and then I did all of the scraping and things like that. All of the fresher rust is done with powders. The interior is really nice. This is all done with some fine debris spillage glued in place. You can see it giving me this really cool puddled effect. And then I went in and added some rust, fresh rust here and there. Could use a little bit more mud splatter on the interior, but other than that it looks pretty good. On the ends there you can see all that really nice rust and patchwork. There you can see all the end detailing with the new air hoses, the KD, the new couple lift bar, that's scratch made. Same thing with the opposite end here. And then let me see, we switch over to this side. You can see it's pretty much the same. Just like I said, changed the sides out, modified those so that they were nice and warped. You can see the nice warped panels. Super nice trick there, and it's relatively easy to do. And then there's the patching, mud splatter, and all that good stuff there. So this one ended up coming out really good, and like I said, I did film this car, so you guys will actually be able to see how I made this particular car in an upcoming Weathering with Dan series. So you guys can stay tuned for that. Alright, wrapping things up here. We're going to be doing some locomotives next, and the first locomotive I did is actually a Wheeling and Lake Erie unit, and this is not one I've done before, but I wanted to model both these units that are in existence. This is the Rio Grande, or Wheeling and Lake Erie 5413. This is actually the last Rio Grande tunnel motor delivered to the Rio Grande, the DRGW. So it was the last one I actually built, I think, too. The last 40T-2. And both this unit and then the 5391 are currently the last operating Rio Grande tunnel motors in existence. And they happen to operate here in the East, in Ohio, in Pennsylvania. These locomotives can be seen. These actually come through every once in a blue moon on an aggregate train or a coke train that goes to Toledo or Cary, Ohio. So I actually have seen these units in person before. They've traveled up and down my line where I used to live in Macomb, Ohio, and I got to see the 5391 a while back on a trip to Michigan, which was pretty cool. It was near switching yard in Detroit where they interchange cars with CN. It's CN's Lang Yard, and it's actually technically outside of Toledo, Ohio, just north of Toledo. Anyways, this is a locomotive I wanted to do for quite some time, actually. And this one was made possible thanks to Athearn's most recent announcement of the Rio Grande SD40Ts. They actually offered this number. And they also are doing the 5391, but unfortunately the 5391 probably isn't going to come out till at least December, it looks like. It was technically due here in September, and then they changed it to October, and now it's December, so Typical Lathern for you. Anyways, I got the 5413 ordered. It came in, and I pretty much took care of it right away. So there's actually a lot of work in this thing, even though it's technically not patched. I didn't have to repaint large portions of the engine like a lot of times I normally have to do. In this case, what I did have to do with a lot of detailing, changing, adding decals, things like that, and then of course the weathering. So if we actually take the camera off the tripod here, because I want to get up close for this particular engine. The 5413 has been modified on the front end. They changed a lot of stuff during its modernization on the Union Pacific and then later the Wheeling and Lake Erie. The first thing they did was they plated up the class lights. They removed the nose light, remaining only was the headlight. But it still did have the original Rio Grande number boards before those were stolen, of course, by some crazy rail fan. And it does still retain the full Rio Grande paint, but they actually tried to touch it up. So this was a little bit of a challenge, but in this particular case with this engine, from the factory, the Rio Grande orange was pretty dark, so I actually had to lighten all of this up using yellow washes. So this played into my benefit here, and what I was actually able to do was model the unique patched areas where they redid some of the orange. For example, if we look at the Pilot, that's the original orange. It's just very dirty and grungy looking. It's almost reddish orange now. Compare that to the orange on the nose, the headlight area, and then the Rio Grande sill, numbers, and logos. It's actually very interesting. You can kind of see what's been touched up over time. So all this on the front was redetailed, a new plow, air hose, MU receptacles, brand new ditch lights, and then all the patching and plating was done on the nose. All the Rio Grande orange was repainted using a yellowish orange wash, which I mixed, and then I very carefully brush painted the Rio Grande logo and all of the chevrons very carefully. Same with the area around the number boards. I re-decaled the number boards there. Windshield wipers and grab irons are all stock. I didn't have to do anything there. The only thing I did do was re-add the antenna and then a grab iron at the top there. On the sides of the Locomotive, I added a cab interior with seats. It's hard to see in there, but there is a full cab interior. Lots of rust dot work, lots of rust peeling, runny rust coming down from the battery box doors. Added the new little vent there on the cab. Added the new wind deflector there. And then the Wheeling and Lake Erie patching is from a microscale sheet. I just had to repaint the lettering yellow to match the number. And then the sill was repainted. All that was redone. The trucks, on the trucks there's a lot of cabling, especially on the rear truck there. Each axle has one of these, I believe it's some kind of anti-wheel slip setup or something like that. I know these tow motors had these, but I had to add all the cabling, so that was very tedious to do. So I did all that, added the sanding lines, and then all the trucks have all the nice mud splatter, all the nice dust, typical of eastern roads here, because these get very dusty, very dirty. The fuel tank is detailed according to the prototype. It's got the waste retention tank, of course. On the sides of the hood there, again, I repainted the Rio Grande orange on the lettering, added all the new warning labels. I modified the rear tower so it's completely flush with the deck, see-through. It does eliminate power to the rear truck, but it still does pull relatively well. I just added a little bit more weight, but it is completely see-through, as I'll show you here. If we look, there you can see all the way through it. Alright, carefully here. So yeah, I did all that, and then all of the nice rust washes, oil washes, that's all done with oils and powders, all sealed in place in this case. I added all of the lift rings to the top, on the rear hood, the new K5 horn, and then on the rear hood here, same process, added the new end details, new MU cables, knuckles, ditch lights, repainted all of the orange on the hood, redid the class lights, did all that, new lift rings on the ends there, on the top of the hood. So that was really tedious, but it ended up coming out really nice. Super nice, actually. Love the look of these Rio Grande tunnel motors, man. I've been waiting to do this thing for a long time. On the opposite side of this unit, there's the warning labels, nicely weathered grills with all that dust. All the cabling on the trucks there again. Fuel tank details, and then there's all the cabling on this truck. So that's all done, and then you can see the real heavy mud splatter all over the truck there. Looks really, really good. I love this area here with all the rust coming down from that battery box door. That looks awesome. You got the replaced brake wheel, replaced sunshade, wind deflector, cab patching. Lots and lots of dusty work, lots of warning labels added. All that came out super nice. And then all the roof work is done, the rusty grills, a little bit of rust, patchy looking paint. It's really surprising how well these two units have lasted though over the years. The paint has held up really well. Of course, Wheeling has touched up the paint over time. I know that they did, like I say, they touched up the Rio Grande logos, some of the sills, everything like that, because they did add the safety striping to the sills. So at some point they repainted those. But for the most part, these are so well preserved, and they're for the most part unpatched. Of course, the Wheeling and Lake Erie 5391 has been kind of screwed with. They renumbered it and it looks god awful, but the 5413 is the most original out of the two at this point. But I'm modeling these both backdated, so they're both in more or less the same overall condition as how I'm going to be modeling these. But they're some of my favorite units. I've been wanting to do these for a long time, and I'm finally getting around to doing them. So that's the 5413, and hopefully pretty soon I'll be able to get the 5391 when it does come out in 20 years. And I'll be able to finish that one up, and then I'll have a matching pair of the famous Wheeling and Lake Erie Rio Grande tunnel motors. This unit is one I picked up at that train show, and in a minute you'll actually see all the things I did acquire from the train show, and I actually showed this engine, I think, as a parts source before I modified it. But this is going to become another Wheeling and Lake Erie unit. It's going to be the 6315, which is a former Alagoma Central ex-Wisconsin Central SD40. This is one of two that was saved from LTEX in the 2000s, and Wheeling and Lake Erie acquired these. And they ran around in the Wisconsin Central paint scheme for quite some time. But these are some really unique GMD hybrids. These have been kind of updated and modernized to EMD standards with new steps and things like that, but they still retain a lot of those GMD type things. So these are going to have the all-weather 3-pane windows, for example. I've already done a lot of the cab detailing with the new detailing on the roof with the antennas, grab irons, the bell, modified the nose with the nose light, and added all of the front detailing. This one is going to hopefully have working ditch lights. So I made accommodations to actually fit LEDs into these ditch lights, which is going to be pretty cool. So at this point I've added a couple of lift bars, lift rings, all the other little details like that. I've removed the class lights and things like that. I modified the fans because this unit has some really unique fan detail. Lift rings are installed. I got the provision made for the air horn, which is a K5, and then there's all the other roof details there. So on this side here, which was pretty cool, I had to modify the GMD brake wheel. So I modified that into the nose, and then I also modeled the little section where the all-weather window used to be. It's only on one side now. They removed it on this side. So I'm going to model this unit again backdated when it still had all of these parts. When it got repainted, they changed a lot of this again, and then they also moved the headlight up to the standard placement. So there's a lot of things with this engine that are funny, especially with the underframe. The underframe I had to completely modify, which I'll bring into the shot here. So it's currently getting a new board, but I detailed the trucks up, and I actually modeled the waste retention tank there, and then grinded away a considerable portion of the fuel tank area because the fuel tank sits in a really funny position on this engine. You guys can look up photos of the real engine and see for yourself. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I am filming this locomotive in a raw run-through, so you guys will be able to see this thing. But it's almost ready for paint, more or less. It's just kind of cool to see a locomotive like this and its progression because you can see all of the things that have actually been changed at this point. It's one of those unique things, so I was able to get a shot for you guys here in this video, but by next week it'll be in primer, hopefully. So you can see I've already mashed up the cab, but there's going to be a lot more work to do. I'm going to have to scratch build the handrails on the front, modify the handrails on the sides, modify the stanchions on the sides as well for the hood, and then the end stanchions as well, because the GMD stanchions are a lot crazier than the American stanchions. So I'm going to have to change all that. But this one's coming along here. It's a nice detailed project I can crank out before I get my next Wheeling and Lake Erie tunnel motor, because that's going to most likely be the next unit I do. So this is a big build that I've been wanting to get out of the way for a long time. I finally sourced a Milwaukee Road SD40-2 and decided I could use it. So this has been quite a bit of a fun project. So hopefully in the next coming weeks I'll be able to get paint on this thing and start wrapping it up. Okay, for the model railroad update here, I'm just starting to work on the ballast now. You can see I just started laying in the mainline ballast here, and then I've mixed in some of the different colored rocks so far. This is the very early stages though. There's still going to be a lot more work to do. I still got to do a little bit more cleaning up of the track, but so far it's looking pretty good. The yard track is actually the hardest part here because you're trying to make it look really aged and weathered like all this track is. And obviously static grass and some other things are going to come in later on once all the ballast is actually glued in place and dried. But this process is really tedious because we obviously have a lot of tracks to ballast. Granted, it's not a massive yard, but it's still a little bit tedious. This took me probably about 2 hours to ballast, and then a lot of that time too has just been working the ballast off the tops of the ties, cleaning switch points off, making sure that they clear, for example. And I'm still not done with that. As you can see, I'm still got some trouble areas where I'm going to go underneath with some wire and try to scrape some of the ballast away. This switch point here still needs some work. As you can see, it won't close all the way, so this is all stuff that has to get addressed before I can actually glue anything in place. So I'm not going to be gluing this tonight. I'm going to just kind of keep piddling away with this. I've been out here for a couple hours, like I said, so I'm going to go in and take a break now and work on some other stuff. But it's currently Sunday, the 23rd, or actually the 22nd. So I started earlier today and then got this done. I kind of ran out of ballast, so I need to actually fill in the cracks here, cover these up first before I can ballast over these replaced sections. But one thing I will say, all the warping has stopped ever since I got this guy in. So the heater slash AC is finally in place. This is installed and ready to go. I got the insert for the wall in place. I sealed everything up with caulk and then foam and everything else. Still needs a little bit more work and then obviously paint, but this guy has been keeping the garage a nice toasty about 72, 73 degrees, which is nice and comfortable out here. You can see I'm actually wearing shorts, which is super nice. And it's about 50 something degrees outside right now. It's pretty chilly. It got really chilly last night with all the rains that came through here. So this has been a great aid in solving the problem out here, and then coupled that with the dehumidifier, things have really mellowed out here on the workbench. I'm not seeing any more ballast cracking, and the tracks aren't raising and separating, and this crucial point down here stopped rising up, so I won't need to go in here now and try to adjust this, which was going to be my Hail Mary. So that rectified itself by just adjusting and controlling the climate out here, getting it to warm up, keeping everything from expanding and contracting, and that solved the problem. So I think it'll continue to solve the problem for the remaining time to come, hopefully. So yeah, we got that done, the wall insert there, and I just need to finish ballasting all these. Once I get all that done, then I can start working on expanding the parking lot through here. We'll come around, this will all be a parking lot, it'll be all ballasted. Same thing with that whole section there. And then all that will be pretty much just like this, where you have a lot of grass, a lot of bushes, shrubs, a lot of overgrowth, and the old code line poles running through here. There will be a signal bridge over here somewhere as well. I think it's going to be right here. It's just before the crossover in the Rio Grande yard. It's about here somewhere where it controls and dictates movement for the center siding and then the 1 and 2 main tracks. These are not controlled by signal, these are just the yard tracks, keep that in mind. But yeah, we're making some good progress here, so I'm hoping I can continue to get the ballasting done, get all that finished up, and then hopefully by this next weekend I'll be able to have all of this ballast in place and I can start working on more scenery, because I would really like to go ahead and wrap this module up, because truth be told, other than the ballasting and some detailing, this part here is going to be super easy because it'll just be continuing on the static grass alley here, laying in some more ties and junk like that, and then all that will be trees in this little area here, and then all that will be shrubs. So that'll all actually come together super quick. And I am filming this step by step for you guys, just so you know. So I will be showing you guys all the pretty much all the processes, just as I did on this section. You guys will be able to actually see what I'm doing. So we'll make some good progress. It'll be some good video, I think, for you guys. So I think that's pretty much it. I don't really have anything else out here, other than I did prep this section here, this next section as well. So the track is painted and the final wiring is in place. So this is all finished up here with the new switches, the new turnouts adjusted nicely. The track bed is all leveled out here, as you can see, so it's a nice, smooth, even transition between these two tables here, which is really nice. So one issue is that on this end here, I'm trying to think how much of this I actually want to show, because I have a lot of open space here that's not really realistic as to what's really there. There would be a highway overpass, or rather an underpass that runs under the tracks here, and all this would be opened up, so I don't really want to just try to fill this in with grass and static, you know, trees and things like that, because it's just, I feel like a waste. I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe if I modify this bench work and then cut a notch into it and then level it out with this. I don't know. I got to think about it, because it's definitely bugging me, and I don't want to go much further into this section until I really nail down the plans here, because I have a lot of wide open space that I definitely don't want, and I should have probably planned better when I was designing all this, but that's just what happens. I got excited, things get rushed, things get overlooked rather, and this is what happens. So I'm going to have to decide what I want to do with this cutout here, but all this is realistic. I want all this because this is going to be the yard office, nice alley behind the track line. Some trees will be back in here, another parking lot behind, or rather in front of the yard office in this section. We'll have to draw all that out and then lay the ballast in, but that'll all come in time. This is going to be the last module I probably do. I'm going to basically do this one, and then this one, because this one's going to be a lot of work too, modifying things. But it's all coming along, and I'm just really taking my time. Like I said, I've taken quite a few weeks now between this last one being done. I mean, rather a few months at this point. But that's for good reason. You know, you got to really plan things out at this point, and I don't want to make any more mistakes where I have to go in and pay for new track, going in and replacing wiring or things like that, because it is costly. Wasting ballast is extremely costly. This Woodland Scenics material is not cheap. Matter of fact, I'm going to have to buy a lot more of it, as you can see, because pretty much one of these shakers gets only one module done, so I'm going to have to buy a lot more as I go along here. I'm buying it to order as I need it. I'm not bulk buying it just because I can't really afford that. So I'm just trying to be cautious with how much I spend. I do still need to get the Scale Scenics, or the Scenic Express trees. That's something else I really got to get. I haven't gotten around to it though, but at this point I just decided to wait until I get all this done to go ahead and buy a box and then make more trees. And then of course I'll need some more for this section, and then all this. So, like I said, it's just one little bit at a time, but we're making good progress here, and I'm super satisfied with where it is now. This is all going to look super nice once it's all finished, because you can see you have all the different levels of the main line, and then the yard tracks, which is super cool. At ground level, this is going to look awesome, doing some switching back here, especially once it's all scenicked up. So the last thing I want to show you guys before I wrap this video up is some of the stuff I came back with. I mentioned I went to a big train show in Lutherville, Maryland very recently, called Timonium. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with the show. I picked a couple cars up, actually quite a few cars, and I also got a few on eBay too. So these are all cars that you guys can keep an eye out for in future videos. I think I showed these in the last. I got these on eBay. I got two of these old rare Atlas Trainman coal hoppers in the CEFX patch schemes, so I got those. I got this guy at the train show. It's a really nice ACFX repaint. I've been looking for one of these cars. I actually paid $30 for this. Train show bargain right there. And most of these cars are going for $40 plus shipping on eBay, so I held back until I actually went to a show, and sure enough, I found one. So I got that one pretty cheap. Got this one super cheap. I got these 2 packs of UTLX ethanol tank cars, 33,000 gallon. These are the ones everyone's always after. The Pro Cores are hard to get too, but I got 2 different sets of these, different numbers each, so 6 different numbers, for about 60 each, which is pretty dang good. These have definitely become a lot harder to find, so I got these 2. A friend sent me this. It's a rare car. I'm super happy to get one of these waffle side cars. Got this at the train show. I got this guy here for 15 bucks, not 25, 15 bucks. It's another Atlas. I think it's used. It might be used, but it's in good shape. IANR patch car here.
And I do see these sometimes here in Ohio, so that was a really good snag. I got that. A friend sold me these two bulkheads, so I got this bulkhead, got this hopper actually with this one. I actually had another Norfolk & Western that I got this car in a set, but I sold the other Norfolk & Western. I only needed one. I got this at the train show, EEC car. This as well I got, and then I also have a Prairie Shadows car. I might actually sell this one off, I'm not sure. I have a couple of these that I probably am going to turn around and sell, but that's just what happens. So I ended up getting a lot more rolling stock than I thought. But I am in the process of buying new rolling stock and selling stuff off that I decided I don't want. And with that money, I've been able to replace it with rolling stock I do actually want, that I have a purpose for. So I got all that. Now that's the rolling stock. The locomotives I got at the show are pretty good too. So I got CSX YN3 SD50, 8709. Excuse me, that's an SD60. I should have known because the 87 is the SD60s. 8700s, I should say. That's a really nice, highly detailed model. That's the improved SD60, so the frame is nice and straight on these. It's not like the older Atherons that have the bent frame issue. This was the train show steel right here, 5371. I've been looking all over for one of these. Really hard to find, and when you do find them, they go for a lot of money. This one does say 125. I actually got this one for 90. Pretty much in mint condition, unrun. And how I got it was I actually found this one, a parts unit, at his table. He wanted $90 for this thing. So what I did was I talked him down in the price for both this SD40-2 and his 5371. So I was actually able to get both these from the same dude, and I saved like 20 or 30 bucks. So it definitely pays to try to work deals out. So the real 5371 is in preservation, so I'm going to keep this one pretty much stock. I'll just detail it up, make it look nice, grime it up, of course. That was a great find there. That was the steel at the show. I was super happy to find one of these. And I also got that, like I said. I picked up this CSX SD40-2, although I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it now, because after looking this number up, I did discover that this unit's been renumbered and it's actually been converted into an RC unit, so I'm not sure if I'll keep that or not. This one I got with the sole purpose of building into a special unit, which I'm actually going to start filming right after this video. I'm going to be actually taking this apart tonight, getting it ready to strip down, but I got a special William Lake Erie unit I'm going to build with this one. So that's the Athearn. So I ended up picking up quite a few Athearn units from this trip. I did not expect that. Fortunately, I had the cash on hand because I ended up finding all these, and especially like some of these, like this 5371, I would have been pissed if I didn't get to grab that. But I bought all these, and then I bought a lot of this rolling stock at the show. So, you know, it looks like a lot, but it actually really wasn't, and that's the great thing about that train show we went to. Everything was super cheap, I mean dirt cheap. So I got a lot of really good deals on a lot of this rolling stock, and then of course eBay supplied the rest of the stuff. So this last unit here is what I'll finish the video off with, and this is kind of the absolute bummer that I ran into here. Found this in a hobby shop display, and it was with a whole bunch of other brand new engines, and it happens to be the BNSF-9 scale trains unit that I wanted. This is a DCC and sound unit, which I wasn't necessarily wanting, but I figured it'd be a good match to go with my ATSF-9. Hard to find because you can't find these numbers, you can't find these paint schemes. Everyone bought them up, and then when you do find them, they're like $400 now because reasons. Anyways, thought I got a relatively decent deal, $275. I saw this sticker and didn't pay attention to this. Here's the problem, and you're going to see this pretty quick. Check your boxes before you buy something. This has been weathered. Yeah, look at that. Not only has it been weathered, but it's also been damaged. There's some parts missing. Handrails are damaged, and it has one of the most god-awful looking BNSF fade-outs I've ever seen. This person just went to town with his airbrush and really screwed it up. And it sucks because he had the right means of doing it, but he ended up really kind of botching it. So you have to excuse my dog there, guys. So yeah, I'm not going to bother taking this out of the box, but I don't know. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to salvage the thing. It's runnable condition. It's still scale trains. It's still the unit I was looking for. It's annoying that this guy just botched the crap out of this, but there's parts of it that I think I can try to save. And if anything, I can just do a complete repaint. I've never repainted a scale trains unit before, but if I can do that, it would be easier than trying to wait week after week trying to find another one of these in good shape and then paying an arm and a leg for it, because I'm pretty sick of that. The inflation on a lot of these, now that they're hard to find, is just crazy. Like, people price gouge the crap out of scale train stuff too. Some people are selling those Prime for Grime -9s for like $400 or $500. That is absolutely stupid. Do not pay that. You know, I know that demand is a thing and that people are looking for this stuff, but people just absolutely will take advantage of you and rape you on these prices. And unfortunately, these -9s are a good example. And I really hope Scale Trains does another run of these H2s. I'd definitely gladly buy another one, but yeah, kind of a bittersweet thing. Happy to find a -9, but I wish it wasn't weathered, because I was intending to get one of these and then weather it myself, but this is going to be a lot more work, I think. I don't know. I'll either sell it off, or at the worst comes to it, I guess I'll just repaint it. But like I said, we'll have to see how things go. It's going to go and sit in the basement for a while with all the other engines that I have accumulated, along with all of these others that I've bought. But yeah, that's pretty much all the stuff that I brought back with me. So we have a lot that will be in store for the future here, and I will not be running out of projects anytime soon. I think you guys can tell that. So anyways, that's going to pretty much wrap this video up, guys. I really want to thank you for, of course, watching this, staying up to date with all my videos. Thank you for the great feedback on a lot of my weathering videos. I'll continue to keep making some. I got a couple more queued up in the pipeline, ready to upload, and I'm also in the process of filming some more videos, including this Milwaukee Road SD40-2 build, which I'm actually going to be starting tonight, right after I finish editing this video together. So you guys will be able to stay tuned for this. You won't believe what I'm going to turn this one into. Alright, so that'll be it. Thank you for watching, guys. We will see you in the next video. Subscribe here on YouTube for the next videos. Take it easy.